Good evening. We'll call to order the City of Douglasville City Council Legislative Work Session for today, which is March 2nd. Our invocation will be done by Pastor D.R. Hopkins, who's a chaplain with the Douglasville Police Department. After that, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance that will be led by the Mayor Pro Tem, Councilman Larry Yockey. Please stand for the invocation.
May we bow heads. Eternal God, our Father, we're grateful today. We thank you for this opportunity to come together. We thank you because you've been so good to us and so kind to us. Thank you for this great mayor, this great city. We pray for these great leaders, God, that you would continue to lead them and guide them so that they could lead us. We thank you for the opportunity to come together for such a great occasion. So now, Lord, we ask that your hand be upon us and upon this city. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem, for leading us in the invocation, and Pastor Hopkins, thank you for your service to the police department as a chaplain and for leading us tonight in our invocation. I will go over just a few procedural items tonight before we begin our meeting. I'd like to welcome you to the City of Douglasville's Legislative Work Session. This is a work session where agenda items will be presented for discussion and no official action will be taken tonight. Unofficial action will be taken on these items discussed tonight on Monday's council meeting at 6 p.m. If the business you're here for is not listed on the agenda item, there will be an ample time under the agenda item comments from citizens and delegates section for you to discuss those items. Just a few protocol issues. I ask that you would keep your comments and presentations on a professional level. If you are to come forward, we will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. I'll ask you, give you a warning the first time, and then we'll ask you not to continue to speak if you do not adhere to the rules. Only one person speaking at a time, and please do not applaud or react to speakers while they're speaking. I ask you also to silence your cell phones if you have any cell phones or pagers, in the old day pagers, laptops, iPads, any of those electronic devices. We'll ask that you would please silence those at this time so that it will not be disruptive to the meeting. The committee chairperson will read the agenda item, and then the person representing that agenda item or the applicant will make his or her presentation. Then the mayor and council members will ask any possible questions, and after that, the committee chair will ask for comments or statements on that item. When you come to the podium, please provide your information to the city clerk, Ms. Vicki Acker, to my right. There are some forms out on the table, green forms that you should have filled out with your name and address. We ask that you would give your name and address for the record as you present to the council. Hope all of those procedural issues are clear, and if you have any questions, please let us know. We'll begin our council meeting at this time. The first committee is Public Safety Committee, and that's chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I apologize. I jumped over announcements. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Announcements and presentations. Presentations of Life-Saving Award to Officer Joseph Dreyer in recognition of his life-saving efforts on February 11th, 2017. I was too excited. I jumped all across that. So we'll have a presentation at this time. Yes, sir. It's our chief and our deputy chief, Chief Sparks and Deputy Chief.
First, I'd like to thank the mayor and council for giving us this time to come out to present this award to Officer Dreyer and to say some of the things about what he did, but to also talk about our entire police department. These are the things we do here on a daily basis as servants to the citizens of Douglasville, is to protect and serve, and he did an outstanding job on this day. But first I want to talk about Officer Dreyer. Officer Dreyer comes to us from Winchester, Massachusetts. He came here in Douglasville at the age of 12. He went to Litchfield Spring Elementary School, Turner Middle School, and graduated from Litchfield Springs. Then he went and joined the Marine Corps in 2003. Went to boot camp in Parris Island, South Carolina. He was deployed in Iraq in September of 2004 and stayed there for April of 2005. He received a combat action ribbon, Purple Heart, for wounds that he suffered during that combat. He got out of the Marine Corps in January of 2007 with an honorable discharge. Worked for a while. Then, as a servant that he is, he wanted to come and join the elite police department. So he came and joined the Douglasville Police Department in 2014. His family, Kaylee Dreyer, he has a new daughter, Father Joseph Dreyer Jr., and Mother Kim Dreyer, his sister Melissa Didier, and Katie Purnell and Sarah Lawson. Now let me just talk about some of these awards that this young man has already had in the military awards. He has a Purple Heart, a Combat Action Ribbon, Operation Iraqi Freedom Ribbon, Marine Expeditionary Unit Medal, Overseas Deployment Ribbon ×2, Good Conduct Medal, National Defense Medal, Certificate of Commendation from the Commanding Officer of the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit for being the personal security for the colonel during field operation. Now, to the reason why we are here, where is Officer Drive? Guess we better get him up here. Yeah, the reason why we're here, that we received a call on February 11, 2017 at 06:58 in the morning. Officer Dreyer was dispatched to 8285 Max Court in reference to a 1-month-old baby not breathing. He arrived there 2 minutes later, 0700, and went into the house where he went upstairs. He was told that the baby was upstairs. He goes upstairs and meets a father with his baby in his arm, and the baby is not breathing. Officer Dreyer immediately started taking action. He took the baby from the father and began to do chest compression, at which time Officer Newmeyer arrived. Officer Newmeyer arrived and assisted, and Officer Dreyer was doing compressions and clearing the airway, and he and Newmeyer worked. Come on up here, Newmeyer, if you're here. See, that's a team effort. You know, the thing of it is, they didn't hesitate, they didn't panic. They got the job done. That's how we train our men and women over at the police department. But together, working as a team, Dreyer turned the baby over, and while giving compression, the child let out a gasp of breath and appeared to be choking. Officer Dreyer placed the child on his side and began to pat the baby's back. At that point, the child had a pulse. I could feel, this is real, I could feel his heart beating rapidly through his chest, and he was breathing on his own. He appeared to be coughing up formula. So by this time, you know, we usually arrive at the scene first, and then emergency 911, the ambulance get there. But we got to know what to do and how to do prior to they getting there, and which these two men did, and with Officer Dreyer taking the lead. So the EMTs got there, got the baby to the hospital, and they ended up taking the baby over to the Atlanta to a hospital there, and right now the baby is alive, and because of the quick action of Officer Dreyer and his counterpart with him, Officer Newmeyer, and we saved the baby. Now, we have went through cases, it wasn't a pleasant outcome. We have went through several of those here in the last year that our officers had to go, and we couldn't have a pleasant outcome like we did this time, but this time we did. So we want to present Officer Dreyer with this, it says Life-Saving Award presented to Officer Joe Dreyer in recognition of your extraordinary action on February 11, 2017, which resulted in the life of a 1-month-old child being saved. And we want to give this to you and thank you for all your dedication and to serving our citizens, and turn that way so they can get some pictures. And Officer Newmeyer, you come on up here. I hate it, but we're going to get some for you. Because you know, you got to have something in a secondary road. So we're gonna make sure that happens. That's on me. Family on up there right quick, we'll take some pictures and Mayor, just tell me when we need to sit down and be quiet. Okay, take a picture up there. Come up.
Council and then shot too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You might have to stand on it. I know.
Y'all need to come around.
Let's go around.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
He's not going to fit.
Mr. Siegel, would you mind coming over to this side for me? I know that's uncomfortable, but. All right, thank you, that's good. Okay.
Thank you so much, Officer Dry. Let's give him another hand as they take their seats. It's great to hear. We always hear negative things, so it's really exciting to hear something positive. I have 3 children. I can't imagine the fear and panic in that father's situation. So thank you again for that. We'll continue with our announcements and presentations, and at this time we have a presentation by the Douglasville Police Department's Employee of the Year Award to Lieutenant Brad Louder. Oh, okay. Detective Dave Watson and Amy Sims. Okay.
Yes, Mayor. We have the 3 the Supervisor of the Year, the Employee of the Year, and Civilian Employee of the Year Award. Each one of these officer and civilian employee was voted on by their peers. You know, the command staff, we didn't have anything to do with it. They were voted on by their peers. So let's start with Miss Amy Sims. Come on over here, Amy. And, you know, and I was reading this, and it was real good. Amy's a country girl. You know, she's from Ohio. She was literally born with cows, chicken, and the cornfield. Yeah, and she started working shortly after high school, but, you know, she's always been a servant. She went into the military, started out in the great service, the United States Army. I'm an Army vet. And then she went over to the Air Force. But she's a master sergeant and served as a weekend warrior with the unit training manager at Robins Air Force Base in Georgia. And she says she's going to stay there until they forcefully wheel me out of the wild blue yonder. So she's still serving the country, and she's still serving here at the city of Douglasville. She's been here over, I guess, not quite, a little over a year. And Amy has degrees in social work, human resource, organizational management, and have an MBA from Bluffington University in Ohio. And she have 2 grown sons who live in Ohio, 1 grown daughter who lives in Douglasville, and a high school girl at home. And, you know, she started with us as a data entry operator, but, you know, when she started with us, I was like, you sure you don't want to be an officer? And but she got down there. She's doing a great job. So now we done moved her over to the code enforcement officer. And as soon as we fill her position in the down in the data entry operator, she'll be going to be our newly code enforcement officer. So Amy Sims, she's been there for a short period of time, but she has been doing a well of her work for us, and she's very respected by all the peers. So Amy, I'm going to present this to you. Say Douglasville Police Department Civilian Employee of the Year, Amy Sims, 2016. Next we have Dave Watson. Dave been with us for approximately 15 years of service here. He started off, Dave, he's also a Marine. You know, we had over at the police department, we're getting so many Marines over there, we had a Marine Day. And I was over there, you know, the Marine birthday. So they had a cake. I got there, I walked in, they had the cake, the sword, and everything. They cut the cake. I'm like, oh my God. The Army got to do something. We got to step up. But anyway, Dave was a Marine, serving this country as a Marine. And one thing that Dave done when he performed for President Reagan at the Statue of Liberty celebration in New York in 1986. Dave was assigned to the 3rd Marine Amphibious Force in Okinawa, touring mainland Japan, South Korea, and Guam. Dave was then assigned to the 4th Marine Air Wing in New Orleans, Louisiana. Dave left the Marines and moved to Douglasville. His wife was just from Villa Rica, you know, and I have to tell this story because I was a patrol officer. So I got a call or something over at the storage shop, and Dave's wife was putting in some things in the storage, and she said, well, my husband is looking for a job and coming here, and next thing I know, I met Dave. And so that was quite, you know, meeting his wife and then meeting him and then get to work with him, and we working together for all these many years. Dave left us, went to the DA's office for a while, but he found out that his calling is in law enforcement work. So he came back to the police department and worked both shifts, night shifts as a lieutenant, and then he went back to something he loved to do, and that's investigation. So Dave is a financial crime investigator and crime against person investigator. And he has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Mercer University. He's married to Michelle from out of Villa Rica. They have 2 children, Sean, who is attending West Georgia, and he's graduating this year, I know you're happy, with a degree in history, and Rachel, who is in the professional program at the St. Louis School of Pharmacy in St. Louis, Missouri. Both my children are graduates of Douglas County High School. Dave has been doing an awesome job for us. He always have a smile on his face. And that's what we have at the police department, smiles inside the walls so they can smile outside the walls when we're dealing with our public. So that's what and Dave, he's a great person to work with and for all these years, about 15 years?
Pretty much.
Yeah, about 15 years. So Dave, Douglasville Police Department Officer of the Year, Detective Dave Watson. Congratulations, Dave. And last but not least, you know, this guy right here, he's been working with me for about 20 years, and we done worked in several different capacities, but Brad Latimer grew up in Smyrna, and he graduated from West Georgia with a Bachelor of Science degree in Criminal Justice. He hired on in 1995. Brad was one of the first original members of our SWAT team. I started that SWAT team up, and Brad was right there with me. And since being on SWAT, he's one of our explosive entry guys. He worked with the robot. He worked with the drone. He worked with all those things that takes the little smartness to do. So, because he's a smart guy, you know. Brad was one of our first K-9, the first K-9 that the city of Douglasville purchased. Brad had the dog. He worked down there on the I-20, the fine unit. And I think they probably seized more money back then when Brad was on the on the fine unit. Matter of fact, when I read that, I said, I'm probably gonna put him back down there, you know. But, you know, he's doing a great job. He runs our motor division, and Brad probably one of the only persons in at our department that holds a certificate for the accident reconstruction from the state. He does all our parade routes. He does all the investigation of our serious accidents, and he's a very good co-worker, smiling, working hard. Our motto of the SWAT team within was train hard, fight easy. And Brad is the epitome of training hard and making the fight easy. He does a great job for us. So he's our supervisor of the year. And on behalf of the Douglasville Police Department, the supervisor of the year, Lieutenant Brad Loudermilk, 2016. And that's all we have, and we thank you for giving us a little time to honor our men and women for what they do for the city and for what we do for what they do for the citizens of our great city. Can we do a picture? All right. Y'all want y'all family up there?
Mm-hmm. Can y'all just a little bit tighter for me? Just a little bit. Okay. Okay. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief Sparks and Deputy Chief Shaw, for such a stellar police department. We're excited to continue to honor our officers and citizen and employees of the year and supervisor of the year. We'll move on to Public Safety Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have a couple of items. First, item A, requesting for a change in agent outlet manager and the transfer of alcohol beverage license sales and corporate stock for pouring of wine and malt beverage and spirituous liquor at the following establishment. Current licensing 20 Bar West and Grill LLC. Proposed license 20 Bar West and Grill LLC. DBA 20 Bar West and Grill. Location 7430 Douglas Boulevard. Current agent outlet manager Adrian Williams. Proposed agent outlet manager Julian Hall. The required fees have been paid into the finance department. And will the applicant please come down, please? State your name and address
In Hall,
for the record.
and the address?
Yes, can you pull
4848.
the mic up just a little bit? Speak into the mic,
Okay,
thank you.
my name is Jillian Hall, and my address is 4830 Smokestone Drive, Douglasville.
Okay. Right now, we're gonna have a public hearing, and I'll have 5 minutes. All this for licensed and be able to speak. We have 5 minutes for, then we have 5 minutes against. Right now, we take everybody that's for the license. Okay, we can ask questions. We ask questions next. Okay, now we'll take 5 minutes for those against. All right, now we'll come up with the questions. Okay. So will you be the agent outlet manager? You'll be there full time?
Yes, I will be here full time.
Okay, what would the hours be, please?
Our hours are 12, so for lunch, until 2:30, which is for Friday night and Saturday night. But typically, it'll be 12 until 12 on Sunday.
And how are your bartenders are trained?
They're trained when onboarded, so at hiring, and then we have additional training at our weekly meetings, and then as new rules change, and to have training additionally monthly.
Okay, council. Questions from the council?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask a question.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes, I understand the restaurant is currently closed,
Yes, we did. We needed for the transfer of the license.
but not for repairs.
Well, I mean, yes, it's for the transfer of the license. I mean, we had an ability to still be open to serve food. We found so many of our patrons like to have a glass of wine or beer with dinner that we didn't want to just have to explain to everyone that we needed to transfer the license.
So the notice on the Facebook page and on the door of the restaurant that both
Right, it did
said
say
repairs.
for repairs. Yeah,
It
we
wasn't
just
really
didn't
for
want to go
repairs,
into
it was
why.
really-
Yeah.
All right. Okay, no other questions?
I had a question, Mr. Chairman.
Ma'am, Mayor?
Ms. Hall,
Yes.
welcome.
Hi.
Now, how long have you been opened?
We've been open since October 28th of 16.
October 28th of 15?
16.
16, I apologize, October 28th. So what happened between October and now that you had to, why is a person that was not initially on the application, Adrian Williams, what
Okay.
happened with Mr. Williams or Ms. Williams between that person and you that you had to close the establishment and you didn't have continuity with the person having the license?
Okay, so Adrian was originally our outlet manager. He found that it was difficult for him to juggle that with his current job. Having been there from the beginning and assisting with financing, I've been there full time. And so it became necessary for me to step in and take that role.
Okay. All right, so in the 4 months, so he's there, but he's not going to be the full-time person?
He is not going to be the full-time person, and at this point, he can just come and enjoy.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I just
Yes,
have a question.
yes, sir.
I've people have come to me wondering why it had been shut down, and of course, there are lots of thoughts on that. But did y'all's closing have anything to deal with any type of fights or anything?
Oh, no, sir.
There was
And
a
I've
shooting?
heard those rumors as well. No, sir, not at all. It was just for the transfer of the license. In order to transfer our local license, we also had to change the state. We could not work under the current license while that was happening.
Okay.
And so as a result, we voluntarily shut down. There was not an involuntary shutdown, which I had actually heard those rumors as well.
Okay, well, sorry I had to ask.
No,
but
that's
It is a
fine.
concern.
I'm happy to say that it was our choice.
Okay, very good.
Mhm.
Any other council? Sure. Well, rumors do spread, so, I was told various rumors. I'm glad my colleagues could get them out so we can, move on, because we don't want to be in the newspaper. So we want
Not at all.
to be clean and okay, if you will, if there's no more questions. Chief, is everything's good? We have any?
No, we haven't had any problem at their place because they did hire the officers for probably the first 3 months.
Oh, every night that we were open for Thursday through Saturday, we had an off-duty officer there.
Was it one of our officers, Chief?
Yes, we chose parking lot for them at their request to take our officers and we had security.
Okay. Susan, everything's good? All the fees been paid, everything?
I don't know of any problem, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, if you come back on Monday and we'll give you a decision, okay?
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next item, Madam Mayor. This item B, request for a permit for outdoor pouring of alcoholic beverages for a special event at the following establishment. Licensee, the English Country House Group, INC, DBA, Irish Bread Pub, Restaurant. Location, 6682 Broad Street, O'Neill Plaza. Event, St. Patrick 3-Day Community Festival. Dates and time of events, March 11th, 2017, from 6 p.m. until 11. March 17th, 2017, from 3 until 11. March 18th, 2017, from 6 until 11 p.m. Agent Outlet Manager, Brittany Wyatt. The required fees have been paid into the City Finance Department. Applicant, please come down. State your name and...
Russell Phillips. My address is 6682 East Broad Street, Douglasville.
And your agent outlet manager is not here today?
She's not with me today, no, she's not.
Okay. Tell us a little something about your event, Mr. Phillips.
Well, this will be the 9th year that the Irish Bread Pub has entertained the residents of Douglas County and the surrounding areas with a St. Patrick's Day festival. The city has been gracious enough to always allow us the use of the plaza, which is located directly behind the restaurant. We always have a good time, and we appreciate the council's.
Now, since the plaza under construction, how is this going? How going to take place with the plaza under construction?
Well, the construction part is located where the old street used to be in the main corridor of the plaza. There is a walkway that runs from Church Street to Broad Street that is wide open, and there is no construction approximately 12 feet from our building all the way east.
So that means that customers will have access to get back and forth to your business, right?
Yes, sir.
Next question from the council.
It's going to be a little tight this year, but normally it's, you spread out all over the plaza. But yes, it's going to be a little tight, but I wish you well on having a great event.
Thank you. We realize that. We've taken into account all of the precautions that we need to undertake for this festival this year. Of course, every year it gets bigger and bigger, but this year we're having to scale it down a little bit. Last year it encompassed about 8 or 9 days. I was not with the English Country House Group at that time, but it went on for 8 days. And this year we've scaled it down to one activity the Saturday prior to St. Pat's, and then, of course, St. Patrick's Day and the day after.
Mr. Chairman, I did have another question, Mr.
Yes,
Phillips, with the construction. So are you going to put up any other barriers via like a green curtain, or just, I'm nervous with that construction being right there with people, not to say that they will be inebriated, but just if you have a couple of green beers, you might lose your balance, and it's only a little fence there. So is there anything else that maybe some tape or something else to as a deterrent for if you're just excited and drinking some of the green beer, because it really is the construction site. And although there is a clearing there behind the restaurant and the stage, the construction site is literally feet away, not very far.
I understand your concern, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
I've, since the start of the construction project, I've been in contact with the personnel that are over there doing the work. They have a very good fence. It's not,
It's sturdy?
I'm sorry?
Is it sturdy?
Yes, ma'am.
I've walked
Yes,
past it,
ma'am.
okay,
And it's over 6 feet tall or
Okay.
thereabouts.
okay.
And it is very secure. I don't see any problem with it, and the way I see it, it would take 3 or 4 good, strong men to even get that to move. Also, the way they've set it up, they've tied it all together. It's not like little freestanding sections. It's all tied together as one. So in order to either get through it or over it or tip it over, it would take some doing.
Be an
And,
effort.
uh,
Okay.
if you just ran into it, you're not
You're
gonna.
not gonna fall, knock it over. Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Phillips. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask our legal counsel. I hate that y'all always have a great event, and I hate that we've kind of messed the plaza up, but I do have some liability concerns on it. I was going to ask our attorney if she sees any liability issues that could come back
Well,
upon us.
Of course, there won't be any liability if there's nothing unusual in that area, but, I mean, technically at this point, we are under contract with the contractor, and the site is his to control and not ours. If he decides to make use of that area that day and leaves equipment or whatever out there, and your public comes in contact with it and gets hurt, you've assumed the risk, since you gave this permit. Rather than him being contractually responsible for it. But if it's a sturdy fence and they don't intend to be out there, maybe it will be all right. But yes, there are some legal risks involved.
If I might add, as always, we have some off-duty Douglasville police officers that will be there all day. I've also talked to the construction people, and they understand that on the 17th it's an all-day event, and they suggested or made a suggestion that they would be willing to go to another job site that day, as to not put any of the public in harm's way.
Okay. That's good.
That answers my question. That makes me feel better. Thanks for.
Well, we wish it would be the way it, finished or, usable, but that's not going to happen this year.
Progress. It's progress. It's gonna be beautiful. when it's
Progress,
finished.
yes.
That's right.
It'll be nice next year.
All right.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Phillips, I just want to express my appreciation to you for the patience that you have for the unfortunate situation that you are placed in. I know you didn't ask for it. I know it's temporary. Things will be better after, so just hang with us. We'll get there. Appreciate you.
We're hanging in there.
And I got a question probably for Ms. Michelle, and you said that the contractor said they'll take off that day?
He was open to that suggestion. I do not know if his bosses are going to allow that or not, but I will be in contact with them.
Okay, so you didn't talk with the boss?
I talked to the gentleman that is the superintendent on that job. I don't know if he has a boss above him or not.
Let me ask Michelle Wright. Michelle Wright, would that hurt us any kind of way, or?
Put us behind on the project?
Pardon me?
Put us behind on the project, is that what
Yes.
you're asking?
Well, naturally, it would put us one day behind on the project. I am not aware of this until this evening, but I will speak with the project manager and then the project superintendent on site and get the information.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wright. Any more questions? Okay, that's all. I'll come back on Monday and we'll.
Monday it is. Thank you.
That's all I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. We'll move on to Community and Economic Development Committee, and that's chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have 2 items tonight under Community and Economic Development. The first is to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Tunnel Spangler and Associates Incorporated for that firm to prepare a downtown master plan and 7-year strategic plan for the city of Douglasville. Mr. Lynn, you gonna help us with that, please?
Yes, sir. I will attempt to. Jonathan Lynn, Community and Development Services Director, 6695 Church Street, Douglasville, Georgia. Yes, sir. This is the authorization for the mayor to enter into the agreement with TSW for the downtown master plan. If you remember right, probably, I guess a couple meetings ago, you guys did have some discussion and vote on extending the offer to TSW to do the master plan. This is just authorization for the mayor to enter into that, to sign that contract in the amount of $65,000. The agreement that we have seen from TSW and that would be signed by the mayor does put some very extensive detail into what they're looking to do in terms of community outreach. I counted no less than 7 public meetings and meetings with the stakeholder group as part of that plan to make sure that they get all their facets. And they're also having a couple extra additional meetings with the Development Authority and their reps regarding the portion that would be detailing the old jail site possibilities.
Is that was part of some of the concern I think that some of the council members had as to how the public would be interacted with and the number of public meetings and the number of times that we would encourage them to be involved. I believe there were some questions about that. Does the council have any other question of Mr. Lynn concerning that issue?
Around the item 4 in the contract, public meeting and expenses, it suggests that the city will assist the consultant in obtaining free meeting space for these public meetings. What is free meeting space? I've tried to have meetings and I've never been able to get any free meetings.
It's only free. That's and we would do that for any group. We do it for a lot of groups where they say, hey, we would like to meet at this date. Can you suggest a location, whether it be at the conference center, which we have monies in our community development budget for community engagement activities to do it for this. Actually, they're going to be able to work it out very well. They're going to actually be able to piggyback on things like Food Truck Mondays and the Ultimate Block Party to actually do some of their community outreach when there's already crowds present as well, so that they're not reinventing the wheel. They're taking advantage of large crowds that are already out. So.
Right. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And on my agenda item, it says 10-year strategic plan, and you said 7. Is it 7 or 10?
Did I say 7 or 10?
It is a 10-year plan. I
reads
think
10.
Okay.
I may not have read 10, but it reads 10.
It's a 10-year plan. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then we will, on Monday, then we will vote on that item, on item A. Well, thank you, Mr. Lynn. Appreciate that. We'll go to item B, select a candidate to the Douglas County Board of Health and the Douglas County Community Services Board for a concurrent 6-year terms as the City of Douglasville's consumer member on each board to expire December 31st, 2022. How are you, Ms. Jackson?
I'm good. Chelsea Jackson, 6695 Church Street, Operations Manager for the City of Douglasville. You interviewed 2 candidates on February 20th regarding this appointment. We will have ballots on Monday night for you all to cast your vote.
Okay. Any question of council?
I had a quick question, Ms.
Yes.
Jackson. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the term, of course, is 6 years, but the time requirement, we said it was once a quarter, but it seemingly it's been once a month. And so I was just trying to figure out that the person really needs to know if it's once a month, if it's a monthly meeting or a quarterly meeting.
Yes, I've spoken with both, and so actually, since it's 2 boards, but they're one and the same, one does meet quarterly and the other meets monthly.
So which one meets at the courthouse, monthly?
Monthly is the Community Service Board, and the Board of Health meets quarterly.
So I just need to figure out which one, because the one at 8:30 in the morning at the courthouse, that's a quarterly meeting?
I'm unsure where it's held,
so one.
But the Board of Health is quarterly and Community Service Board is monthly.
Ms. Jackson, just so I understand, we'll be voting to appoint a candidate for each of these, which we have already interviewed, and the council is aware of that. But how will we not need to know the times and the frequency of the meeting? I think what the mayor was getting at, so that we would know which candidate would fit best.
Well, the Board of Health and the Community Service Board, it's one board that acts as the same board.
So we don't have to differentiate then as to which position is for which.
You'll be picking one individual for both boards.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that that was the case.
Yes, sir. Because when they interviewed, the one lady said that she had already, one meeting she couldn't make or something because she already had a date that was a conflict.
Yes.
But if they think it's a quarterly meeting, which I thought we communicated to them that it was a quarterly commitment. So if they're thinking it's a quarterly meeting 4 times a year, they have to add on another 11 meetings.
Initially, we did, and I went back and I spoke with the board members on the other board, the Community Service Board, and they let me know the exact dates and times. And so I emailed and called both candidates and verified with them that they are available.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Ms. Hampton, did you have something?
No, sir. I was just going to make certain it sounded like there wasn't clarity that it's a combined board.
Okay. My bad.
Two different boards, but they have combined their efforts. And very similar to some boards, GMEBs would be the same. It's several different boards, but meeting at one time.
Want to make sure we're all clear.
And
Any
both
other
candidates are aware of that, and they're both said they're available for all of those.
Yes, and the one candidate said she wasn't available. She made that known in the committee's meeting on the 20th.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you.
All righty. Madam Mayor, that's all that we have under Community and Economic Development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. We'll move on to Parks and Recreation Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have nothing under Parks and Rec tonight.
I'm jumping too fast. I apologize, Mr. Adams.
I don't mind being skipped, Madam Mayor. That's fine.
I thought you said that was like, no. I'll go back to planning, and thank you, so much, Councilman Watts. Now, Planning and Development Committee, that's chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams. You don't need to be skipped. I'm going too fast.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have 2 items tonight under Planning and Development Committee. Item A, 2217-11, was tabled February 20th, 2017. We held a public hearing and consider a request for a change in zoning from CG General Commercial to IL Light Industrial for 40.28 acres, plus or minus, at parcel number 016302500012, located in land lot 163, District 2, Section 5, Parcel 12. Application made by SL Brightstar LLC. We have tabled that item. We are in here for tonight for discussion or for questions. This is not another public hearing. We've already held the public hearings, but we may have, council may have questions. There may be other comment that needs to be made. I see that Mr. Joe Fowler is here representing the application along with other individuals that we may have questions of. So, Mr. Fowler, do you have new information you wanted to provide us with?
Just a little bit. Joe Fowler, Post Office Box 489, Douglasville. I'm here with Dan Lacey, who is here from New Jersey on behalf of the company, with appreciation for the very brief tabling. And then, of course, you've seen these gentlemen before, Speedy Boutwell and Howard Ray. And because of that very short tabling, we were able to keep the window cracked open with respect to the deliverables for this project, which, remember, is September. The time window is narrowing, of course, but if we have a decision by Monday, we'll be able to respond accordingly. We've addressed the traffic concerns with the county DOT. Howard has done that specifically with Mr. Randy Hulsey, and we have prepared a development agreement that commits the applicant to deal with and pay for the required traffic improvements, both for Phase 1 and then separately for Phase 2. Howard can speak specifically to that more, can do it more specifically if you wish. I've given a copy of the proposed agreement to Susan. She's given me some feedback. I understand we may need to make a couple of more changes. But if you have any questions about that or anything else, I'll be more than glad to respond. Generally, Howard specifically with respect to what the proposal involves in the development agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. I don't think that we have that development agreement loaded on our computers. Is that correct, Mr. Littlefield?
Yes, sir. You have the development agreement, and what will become an attachment for it is the DRI recommendations, the findings, and the site plan.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fowler.
Yes, sir.
Let's hear from Mr. Howard Ray as to details concerning that. I think there were some issues and questions. I was not present at the meeting where it was tabled, but I wanted to make sure that we had clarity on what the questions were, and hopefully Mr. Ray will be able to help us. Name and address for the record, Mr. Howard Ray. How are you?
Howard Ray with HRC, 6554 East Church Street. I'm going to try to keep it brief and then I'll answer questions. But basically, I met with Randy Hulsey, I'm going to say early this week, and we talked about a little bit further, had another conversation. I think this is the third conversation relative to traffic improvements. and wanted to explain to him, make sure he was clear that it was a phased project, and that we had to be mindful of cost at the end of the day. So, but I wanted to make sure he was comfortable with what we were proposing and so forth. So after that meeting, he basically was agreeable to following the DRI recommendations from Greta, which was in the notice of decision, which basically is specific to the intersection that we would be creating at Wood Road. It's approximately, I'm gonna say 1,500 to 2,000 foot of roadway improvements. We would actually build a 3-lane section through that entire portion. At the ends, they would taper back to the existing 2 lanes, but the road would be built to 3 lanes, so that it could easily be matched up and expanded in the future. So with that said, that would be phase 1. One of the things that he wants to work on is to develop a, for lack of a better word, a master plan of transportation in that area, so that if the other large parcels develop, that the city and county can be on board with the same thought process to move the traffic in that area. And so that as the other parcels develop, as well as phase 2, we can have a plan to follow. So that'll be some of the things we'll be working on. But for this phase, we are basically, and I believe it's hopefully adequately addressed in the development agreement, we're basically going to follow the notice of decision guidelines from GRETA, the Georgia Regional Transportation Association, which is adding a southbound left turn lane into the site, adding a right turn lane on the northbound traffic, and then making the driveway, for lack of a better word, Wood Road, a 3-lane section there.
Ray, you're speaking of Bright Star Road when you mention a north and south turn lane and so forth, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What about on-site? What about on-site roads like Ward Road, Gurley Road, so forth? Was there mention, I think there was some concern for roadways that were on the property that were not presently being used, as to improving those out to the Bright Star Connector. Is there any update on that? Is that something that has to be done or would be included?
That'll be in the master plan and will be evaluated as part of phase 2. The hope is to distribute the traffic to multiple access points. Randy's, or I'm sorry, Director of DOT for Douglas County's wishes is to bring the truck traffic directly to the connector, and then the auto traffic on Bright Star. We're looking at that option, or those opportunities, as well as looking at the option of going to 5 directly from Gurley, which is out the back door. But that would all, I would anticipate that to be in phase 2, depending on how that works out with negotiations with the neighbors.
Council, questions of Mr. Howard Ray?
Hey, Mr. Ray. I kind of went over this at our last meeting. I understand the transportation, changes and directives that you've got from DRI or ARC or one of those groups. But my concern is this is really in the heart of my ward, and we have some problem areas already that aren't attributed to this. And my understanding, the ARC hasn't, the problem's already there, so it's not on y'all. So you don't have to contribute to correct those problems. But you're going to be adding traffic into those problem areas that there's already a problem. Is that, for example, the intersection in front of Sam's and Walmart going into that area, that is atrocious already right now. I'm not saying that you caused that by any means, but you're 50 to 100 trucks a day going in and out from, I don't care how you get them there, they're going to be going through that intersection and causing further congestion on a problem that already is there. So I don't think you're going to be making any additions to that intersection or any improvements to that intersection. Additionally, the city has a extreme problem with the Highway 5 bridge that goes over I-20. It's just not big enough to handle the traffic that is there now. So it's my understanding, and this is just a yes or no, you guys will not be making any adjustments or improvements to the intersection in front of Sam's, sorry, I don't know that road. Concourse. Nor will you be making any improvements to the Highway 5 bridge going over I-20.
Based on current discussions, no, we will not.
Okay. And you agree with me that that 50 to 100 trucks will be added to the current traffic through those intersections in that area because of this?
I know that there are 50 trucks in, 50 trucks out. Speedy can give you the breakdown. I just be honest with you, council member, I don't remember the exact breakdown, but there will be a certain portion of those 100 trips that will be there.
Okay.
I will say this, from talking to the director of DOT with the Douglas County, he did make me aware, and I think Speedy, our traffic engineer knows. Our traffic engineer knows more about it than I do, but it's my understanding that there are 2 projects that are entering into the final design stages that are addressing something on Highway 5. I think one is a signal program, but I'll let him. That's not my total knowledge field, so he would be much better to speak to it. But I do know there are projects in the process that will be implemented. That it's already been in the thing, what's called the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Plan with the state. But Speedy can hopefully answer that better.
Okay, just one other question. You may or may not, Speedy, may be able to answer this as well. But you said there's going to be some directive over personal car access and truck access being in 2 different directions. I'm just wondering how this company is going to be able to enforce all of their employees coming from one direction versus another. How are we going to keep a track on that?
You're not. It's just that if you provide an easier route for a truck, they're going to migrate to that path. But yes, there would be no way of restricting, so to speak, that movement. I would like, I realized I didn't answer Mark's question. On site, we are bringing right now a 3-lane section through our site, and then where our property line is on the east side where Wood Road continues towards Gurley, we neck back down to a 2-lane based on what appears to be the existing width of the right-of-way. So we are bringing that 3-lane section of the width of our property right now. Sorry.
Is that?
Answers.
We'll
If Mr. Speedy or
Is there other questions from Mr. Howard Ray? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ray, you talked about the trucks, and then with the Greta decision, it said to install the 1 northbound right lane and install 1 southbound left lane and 1 westbound right turn lane. In those improvements, last time didn't you mention to us about a staggered schedule of trucks coming in, egress and egress with the trucks, so they wouldn't be all at one time, that the schedules would stagger, and so it wouldn't be an influx of 50 or 100 trucks at one time, or employees coming at one time. The times would be staggered for scheduling.
Yeah.
A lighter load on the roads.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Primarily, they stagger their work shifts.
Yes, sir.
So that's really the heavy loading is the automobiles, as far as the number of traffic movements. So they stagger those times. In other words, they're off peak. In other words, they don't change shifts at 8. Then they overlap, so they don't have the staff leaving and coming at the same time. I think it's approximately an hour and a half overlap between shifts, so that they mitigate some of that. And as far as trucks, you know, my dad was a truck driver. They're going to be there at 5 in the morning, and they're going to be waiting on you to act. You know, they may be parked over to the side before they bring you over here to unload you. They're not going to drive in 8 o'clock Atlanta traffic or Douglasville traffic. They're not going to do it. Well, let me rephrase that. They'll do it once.
Yes, sir.
So I think that you'll see that that part will mitigate. With that said, as Mike has referenced, there's a lion's share going to come through that intersection.
Mhm.
There is.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, I heard over my shoulder, it's 20% goes to Post Road, so it's 80% at 5.
Okay, that was one of the things I was referring to before, was if the traffic could be offloaded onto Post Road. And do you know if the traffic is, some companies know which direction most of their traffic is going to go. Do you know if this is going to go east or west? Is it going to go into Atlanta, or is it going to go westbound to Texas?
I don't know that I can answer that. Our traffic model based on distribution system is 20 to the west and 80 to 5, but from there.
Let's see before you speak. Let's see if there's any other question for Mr. Ray, and then we'll have you try to answer any questions anyone else has. Not to say that we won't need you again, yes, Mr. Ray, but any other questions for Mr. Howard Ray? Okay. Speedy, I apologize. I can never remember your last name.
That's fine. Speedy Boutwell. I'm a traffic engineer with Wilburn Engineering, Boutwell. And I'm 49 Williams Pride Way, Noonan, Georgia.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Questions for Mr. Boutwell?
I'm going to answer the two questions that's on the table.
Be fine. Go ahead.
One of them was the truck percentages. The estimated trucks are 75% to and from the east toward Atlanta and 25% to and from Alabama. We estimate that 20 to 25% of them will try to use Post Road because it'll be a much easier route for them to get in and out of the development. The other ones will eventually hit either 5 or come around Douglas Boulevard. I'm sure some of them will try Douglas Boulevard, but eventually they'll probably change their mind and go the other way.
I would think that would probably be a matter of experience. Once, if they're repeat drivers coming to the area, they may even find it necessary to go to Post Road and backtrack, depending upon traffic patterns and times that they're coming in.
Sir.
But you have no control over that, I understand. Okay.
There are 2 projects currently planned on Highway 5. One of them is a dual right turn coming off the westbound ramp coming from Atlanta, going toward Concourse. That's currently planned. There's a single right turn there today. They're planning to put 2 in, so it'll be duals. There's also a plan to put dual lefts southbound at Douglas. We're going to widen to the Walgreens side. That's currently planned. Those projects are in final design right now. So
you have a time frame on that? Is that coming from Mr. Halsey with Douglas County?
No, sir. That's GDOT.
Coming from Georgia Department?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So we don't have a time frame on when that's going to come to fruition?
They're in final design, and they can put them on the table to be done in the next year, or they could take it off and do it in 5 years. It just depends on their funding. But they are in final design.
Once groundbreaking, that's probably from somebody else. Once groundbreaking has done, when do you see groundbreaking, if it's approved? When do you see groundbreaking, and when do you see trucks on the highways? 5 years, 2 years, 3 years?
Who is that a question best answered by?
I'll take a shot at it.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr.
If somebody throws something at me, we'll start over. Groundbreaking, it is our hope that as early in April as possible that we'll be in the groundbreaking. We're moving ahead on design already. We've still got to come back to you for a development plan. The delivery date of the is September, so I would expect September timeline when the building gets a CO that you'll see trucks shortly thereafter.
Then you say that phase 2 is actually the manufacturing side of it, and when of this particular company, which we don't know yet. When is that planned on being started?
The hope is to break ground in 2 years, be open 3 years later, or 3 years from when we open phase 1. Would be longest. 2 years the window.
To reiterate, it's 500 employees first phase, and then another 500 employees the second phase. I'm getting a nod. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ray, in the second phase, do y'all have an estimate of how many trucks going to be on the road during the second phase?
Total? A total of around 400 trucks.
So total around 400. So we're going to have 400 additional trucks going through that intersection at Sam's and Walmart and in front of Academy.
75% of that.
75.
So 325, close, yes.
So 300 trucks a day are going to go through that intersection.
Probably about 30 in the peak hour, 20 to 30 in the peak hour. And that's both ways, about 15 one way, 15 the other way, going in, coming out.
That's a concern, at least for me. So, that's all.
Other questions, comments? Anyone have any other questions concerning this item? Thank you so much to each of you that have come in. We'll take this up on Monday night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is connected to this. Item 2217-12, table from February 2017. Consider a request for an amendment to the City of Douglasville's future land use plan from Community Activity Center to mixed-use design on 40.28 plus or minus acres. Parcel number 016302500012, located land lot 163, District 2, Section 5, Parcel 12. Application again by SL Brightstar LLC. Is there any discussion on this item or any questions concerning this item, as we will also take up on Monday night? Did you have something, Mr. Ray, that you wanted to say? Realizing, of course, that if item A is not approved, then we would not take up item B. Okay.
This may or may not be a question for Mr. Ray. Maybe Michelle may know this, but when and through what procedure was this area zoned from CG, zoned into CG, and then added to the future land use plan as a community activity center?
Well, if it was in a previous zoning, it would have been rezoned by the property owner. I don't have the exact date. When we did our future land use plan, we just adopted it the first time. It was around 2004 when we made those designations, and we just adopted it again in, I believe it was 2013.
Okay.
Any other question? Any other comment?
I do have a comment on that. It's just frustrating, especially when we just spent $42,000 or $60,000, I can't remember, on doing a future land or a future planning map, for the downtown area. And I know, and there were a lot of people involved in the future land use map that was redone back in 2004. When we spend tens of thousands of dollars doing these plans and expecting the development to go through according to those plans, it's frustrating to have derivation of those plans through multiple zoning acts. I'm concerned with why do we even do these plans is my question overall. When we're going to come in and allow zoning variances to supersede our plans after we've spent tens of thousands of dollars on this. I think this, so according, with the change in the future land use plan, this was done 10 years ago. It was a strategic plan, and now, now there's a zoning request to change what we planned in 2004 and then ratified in 2013. And I think it just sets a bad precedent to always allow zoning changes when we spent so much money on creating a future land use plan. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any other comment? We'll take this up on Monday night.
Just address one thing concerning that narrow question. The property owner I've spoken with a number of times, it's been on the market for CG since prior, I think 2004. No activity whatsoever. We went through a period where there was very little activity of any sort, of course, but he was clear that they have attempted to comply with the future land use plan. No interest, in part because this property nestles right up against the city's industrial area. So part of the thinking was, because it is nestled there, as you know, when you get to the top of the hill, you get to Granite Drive. And as you come farther south, particularly as you get to the connector, it's more fitting for CG in all likelihood. But up in that area, no activity for all these years, even though it was that way. And I guess that's why you have a provision to amend the map, because sometimes when planners start drawing the lines, you do so aspirationally, but sometimes it just doesn't match the market. And that's what's happened in this particular case. Though I agree with you, Mike, it's something that is worthy of consideration. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. We'll take this up on Monday night. Madam Mayor, that's all that we have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've already had Parks and Recreation Committee. We'll move on to Finance Committee, which is chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Larry Yockey.
No items tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Information and Technology Committee, that's chaired by Councilman Richard Siegel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have 2 items. First item is to authorize the Communications Director to advertise for proposals for a branding and marketing study for the city of Douglasville.
Mr. Chairman, we discussed this item in your 5 p.m. meeting. This is one of your directives from your retreat this January for us to start looking at branding and marketing internally for the city. So this proposal would allow us to hire a consultant to do that, and with your approval on Monday night, we can begin that process.
Any comments or questions from Mayor and Council? Then if there's no objection, I'd like to put this on the consent agenda for Monday. And our second item is to authorize the mayor to sign a consulting agreement with Network Utility Force, LLC, to retain this firm to perform computer technology services for various future projects.
Mayor and Council, as we talked in committees earlier.
Can you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Pardon, sir. Nathan Todd, 6695 Church Street. As we discussed in committees earlier, this is just an agreement with Network Utility Force to provide a framework for future contracts with them. Network Utility Force is the company that designed and deployed the public Wi-Fi network that we got funded by Google, so it is to support the network we have downtown along with the connections to both the parks and the networks there. The main focus of this is to allow us to repair and expand the network at Jesse Davis Park. We've got some issues with connectivity there, and we've already got parts and time lined up. Network Utility Force would just like this agreement in place before they're willing to do any work.
Comments or questions from Mayor and Council? And I'd also, unless there's objection, like to put this on the consent agenda for Monday. That's all I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. We'll move on to Maintenance and Sanitation Committee. That's chaired by Councilman Mike Miller.
Thank you, Madam.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business under Maintenance and Sanitation Committee tonight.
Thank you, sir. Transportation Committee, the Vice Chair is Councilman Sam Davis.
No items at this time, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Personnel and Organization Committee, that's chaired by Councilman Richard Siegel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No items tonight.
Sir. Ordinance and Intergovernmental Committee, that's chaired by Councilman Michael Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have a few items tonight under Ordinances and Intergovernmental Committee. Our first item is 29-17-04. This is to adopt an ordinance amending the city charter to authorize electronic voting and to provide that the mayor not vote in the election for Mayor Pro Tem. I would no, I'm not putting it in a motion to approve. I'm going to ask if we've been over this several times. It's been on committee meetings several times. Are there any questions or concerns about this? I know this is under ordinances, but to the extent that we've talked about it, I would request, if there's no objection, to place it on the consent agenda. We're good? Okay. Item B is repeal ordinance 0-20, is that O? Am I reading that correctly?
Yes.
O-2013-33, the compensation ordinance for city elected officials, and to enact a new compensation ordinance without references to business travel to be effective upon enactment. We've also been over this issue several times. I'm kind of looking for a nod from Councilman Siegel, but I would suggest that this also be placed on the consent agenda for Monday.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just make one point or ask one question. This has nothing to do with compensation as such for us as elected officials, only for travel expenses. Is that correct? I want to make sure that that's clear to our listening audience.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Everybody okay with it being on the consent agenda? Item C, adopt an ordinance enacting Section 2-50 of the Administration Ordinance to authorize payment for certain business travel expenses for the mayor and council members to be affected upon enactment. This is an issue we've also discussed in committee several times, dealing with basically restricting council and setting some guidelines there. So with that, I'm looking for a head nod from Councilman Siegel, but I'd ask this to be.
What does this have to do with me? I'm sorry, I missed that. This one and the one before.
If there's no objection from council, I'd ask this to be placed on the consent agenda for Monday. And that is all we have for tonight, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. We'll move on to Education and Training Committee. That's chaired by Councilman Samuel Davis.
No, this time, Madam Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other business from council members to be discussed tonight?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I just want to commend our police department on the excellent town hall meeting they conducted on Monday. We had a great turnout, and the citizens who showed up were very engaged in the information that was provided.
Thank you so much. Thank you for council members that attended. I saw you on the news too that night, Chief, 2 times. You did very well, very articulate. Thank you so much. Any other business to come before the council tonight? Okay, well, our city attorney is not in tonight, so we won't have a report from him. We'll move on to the Chief Assistant City Attorney, Ms. Susan Littlefield.
Madam Mayor, on Monday night, I would expect to need an executive session to discuss litigation, but I have no other business tonight.
Thank you so much, Ms. Littlefield. We'll keep that in mind for Monday. Chief of Police, Chief Gary Sparks.
Mayor.
Thank you, sir. City Manager, Ms. Marcia Hampton.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Really? Okay. Okay, comments from citizens and delegates. Now's the opportunity. I don't know if we have any left to have comments to the mayor and council from our citizens and delegates. If anyone wants to come forward, the floor is open. We just have our press. Okay. Staff reports?
We have none tonight.
Wow. Okay. We don't have any staff reports, and there isn't any other business. Without objection, this meeting is adjourned.